The cemetery was empty except for me, the priest, and the smallest coffin I had ever seen. It was too quiet. The kind of quiet that presses on your skin until you feel like screaming. The sky hung heavy with gray clouds, but no rain fell. Even heaven, it seemed, had abandoned me. I clutched a photo of my daughter, Ava, her gap-toothed smile, her braids falling over her shoulders. She loved purple, unicorns, and drawing suns with too many rays. She had been 8. Only 8. I lowered the photo onto the coffin, my hands trembling. "I'm sorry, baby," I whispered. "I should have protected you. I should have." My phone buzzed in my pocket. At first, I ignored it. Nothing mattered. Not anymore. But as the last handful of dirt fell over her coffin, I pulled it out. A message from Mom. "Stop being dramatic. This is urgent." My stomach clenched. Urgent? What could possibly be urgent enough to interrupt my daughter's burial? Another buzz. Another message. "We need Ava's trust released now. Your brother's business can't wait. It's only money. Only money. My name is Claire Bennett. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been treated like a stranger in your own family? Have you ever buried your child while your parents drank champagne across town?" That was the moment I realized, my family hadn't just skipped my daughter's funeral. They had replaced her memory with $signs, and I swore, as the soil sealed her coffin, that if they wanted her trust, I would make them pay a price they could never afford. The house was suffocating when I returned from the cemetery. Ava's sneakers were still by the door. Her purple sweater was still draped across the couch. Everywhere I looked, her presence lingered like a ghost. I collapsed onto the couch, clutching the sweater to my chest. The scent of her shampoo still clung to it, sweet, fruity, innocent. My chest heaved with sobs, then my voicemail pinged. My father's voice barked through the phone. "Claire, we don't have time for this morning nonsense. The $600,000 in Ava's trust, your brother needs it. Family comes first. Be reasonable. Be reasonable." My child was in the ground. And they wanted me to fund my brother's failing business. That night, I dug out the trust documents. I had set it up after Ava's father walked out on us. Every spare dollar, every overtime shift I worked, I poured into that account. It was meant for Ava's college, her future. The trust was airtight. I was the guardian. No release until she turned 18, unless I approved it. My parents had no claim. My brother had no claim, but grief makes you vulnerable. They knew it. 3 days after the funeral, my mother stormed into my home. Her heels clicked on the hardwood, her perfume too strong, too sweet, suffocating. "Claire," she said, voice sharp, "your brother is drowning in debt. You don't need that money. Ava doesn't need it anymore." Her words hit me like a slap. I stared at her, my grief boiling into something darker. "Get out," I whispered, but she smiled, smug. "Think about it. Family takes care of family." When I closed the door behind her, I didn't break down. For the first time since Ava's death, I felt something other than sorrow, resolve. If they wanted to treat my daughter's memory like currency, I would show them the cost of their greed. The calls came every day. My father's voice grew harsher, my mother's more desperate, my brother's messages more manipulative. "Claire, you're being selfish. Claire, this money could save us all. Claire, don't let Ava's death go to waste." I should have blocked them. But I didn't. Because every voicemail, every text, every email was evidence. I started saving everything. A folder on my laptop, encrypted. A backup drive locked in a safe. Their desperation bled into every word. When I finally replied, I wrote, "I'll need details. Numbers. Paperwork. Proof." And they delivered spreadsheets. Proposals. Contracts. Every lie laid bare. My brother wasn't building a business, he was sinking into debt from bad investments, unpaid contractors, even gambling. Their greed wasn't just cruel. It was reckless. I took the evidence to Sarah, Ava's godmother. She sat across from me at my kitchen table, eyes scanning the documents. "Claire," she said quietly, "this isn't just exploitation. This is fraud. If you play this right, you won't just stop them, you'll destroy them." Her words burned into me. My family thought grief had made me weak. But grief had carved me into something sharper, and I was ready to cut. Thanksgiving arrived. My family invited me as if nothing had happened. I went. Not to forgive. To observe, the dining room glowed with golden light, silverware polished to perfection. My brother raised a glass, smug. To family, and to new beginnings. I lifted my glass. And to Ava. May her memory guide us. Silence. No one spoke. The only sound was knives scraping plates. Later, my mother cornered me in the kitchen. Claire, honey, let's finalize the trust. Imagine how proud Ava would be, helping her uncle build something lasting. I leaned in until I could smell the wine on her breath. Ava wanted to be an artist. She didn't dream of bailing out liars. Her eyes narrowed. If you don't help, you'll regret it. That was her mistake. Threats are gasoline to a fire. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Not to release the trust, but to fortify it. We rewrote every clause, sealed every loophole. My parents would never touch a cent, but defense wasn't enough. They had turned Ava's death into a transaction, now I would turn their lives into a reckoning. The first domino was my brother's business. His employees hadn't been paid in months. Contractors were threatening lawsuits. Investors were restless. All they needed was a push. So I gave an anonymous envelope to the State Labor Board. Another to a hungry journalist. A final package to his investors, proof of every shady deal, every misused dollar. Within weeks, headlines screamed his name. Local entrepreneur faces fraud allegations. His empire collapsed overnight. My phone lit up with calls. My mother sobbing. My father shouting. My brother begging. I ignored them all. Instead, I went to Ava's grave. Kneeling in the grass, I whispered, "They thought you were a bank. Now they'll see you were the foundation, and without you, they collapse." But revenge has ripples. My father lost his status at the country club. My mother's social circle vanished. Invitations dried up. They had abandoned me in my darkest hour. Now the world abandoned them, and still, they didn't know it was me holding the knife. Christmas came cold and empty. No cards. No calls, until a knock rattled my door. It was my father. His face sagged, his suit wrinkled, his pride shattered. He pushed past me, voice low, desperate. "Claire, we're ruined. You need to reconsider. Release the trust. Please." I stared at him, the man who once tucked me in at night, now begging for scraps from his granddaughter's grave. "You buried your daughter alone," he said. "Why punish us more?" Punish? I let the silence stretch until his eyes flickered with fear. Then I handed him a folder, copies of every voicemail, every text, every email. "These are safe. If you ever come near me again, they'll go public." He flipped through the pages, his hands trembling. "You wouldn't." I smiled. "I already did." His face drained of color. He stumbled out the door without another word, and in that moment, I realized something. They thought grief had broken me. But grief had built me into a storm, and they would never survive it. The storm spread. My brother filed for bankruptcy. Lawsuits circled like vultures. His name was dragged across every paper in town. My parents sold their home to cover debts. Their once polished reputation shattered. Friends stopped calling. Invitations disappeared. I didn't celebrate. Revenge isn't joy. It's balance. One evening, Sarah asked me, "Do you feel lighter now?" I thought of Ava's laughter, her drawings, her little hands gripping mine. "Not lighter," I said. "Just balanced. Because betrayal has a price." And they paid theirs in ruin, but even as I watched them fall, a piece of me still ached. These were my parents. Blood should bind. But they had cut the cord themselves. That night, I lit a candle beside Ava's picture. Her smile glowed in the flickering flame. "I kept you safe, baby," I whispered. "Even in death, they couldn't take you from me." For the first time since the funeral, I slept without nightmares. Spring arrived. The grass grew soft around Ava's grave. I brought wildflowers, the kind she used to weave into crowns. I sat in the sun, my hand tracing her name on the stone. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I didn't answer. The world of demands and greed no longer had a claim on me. Instead, I looked at the sky and spoke aloud. "They tried to erase you, Ava. But I made sure your name will never be tied to their greed. Your trust is safe. One day, it will fund a foundation in your honor, something beautiful, just like you." Behind me, children's laughter echoed. Life moved forward. For the first time in months, I let My parents had lost everything. My brother was a ghost of his former self, and me? I was scarred, but unbroken. I pressed my palm to Ava's stone and whispered, "Justice isn't loud, Ava. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just."